that?
He's trying to hijack the microphone.
I just wanted to add on to this. I'm involved with Professional Surveyor magazine, and 2 years ago, thanks to Kurt Sumner, we introduced a new columnist her name is Ashley Rose Nalen, and she writes a column called The Next Generation Surveyor. She was a young surveying school graduate, and she writes for us, not every issue, but her column is probably the most popular, one of the most popular columns we publish. I just want to tell you, though, that when she writes for us, we get more positive comments from young surveyors than imaginable. But I also wanted to add one thing. I have a drawer full of letters letters to the editor that we will never publish, because they are from some of our readers who can't believe that we publish columns by this young woman surveyor who's infringing on their territory.
All right, I need to let the final person ask his question, Dave.
I think we have an opportunity I get two things here. One is to address this issue of the young surveyors, the people we want to access. Now, those of us who have been doing this a long time, and there are many in this room who have been doing it a long time, we know that the issues relative through K through 12 educational have been lackluster at best in terms of our results. We keep trying, but we haven't achieved what we want to. And there's something out there that will work for us, and we just have not yet really grabbed onto it. And I'm seeing this more and more every day, and it's geocaching. All right. I get emails, not every day, but constantly, from people who are, years ago they found the NGS database, they all have a GPS receiver, they go out there, they go to that coordinate, and they find something bright and shiny. Well, what is this thing? And through their website, their own website, we've been educating the public in a way that I've never seen that we've had a capacity to do ever in my career. And this is just a tiny part of it. We need to be much, much more proactive with that group, because what's happening is these are parents who are taking their kids out. I get pictures from people, they're taking their 3 kids out, and they're all recovering the benchmark or the cadastral corner or whatever it is, and they want those kids educated. So there's one opportunity for us, and I know there has been an effort within NSPS to outreach to that. We're doing some things at NGS, and we'd like to do some more. One of the other educational issues that I've had in going around the country and talking to both surveyors and people on the GIS side, when we talk about this access to education and back and forth, a common complaint that I've heard for years and years and years, I'll ask a surveyor, well, why didn't you go to this workshop that was being given on GIS or reference frames or whatever it was? And they'll inevitably say, oh, I couldn't afford to go to the conference, or it's too far away, or I can't afford to pay for it. Well, we have new technologies now, and we're using a lot of this at NGS. Webinar. We can put on workshops, we do this all the time now at NGS, that are webinar. Anybody in the world, in fact, we gave one not long ago, we had students from Papua New Guinea that were tapped into our webinar, free of charge. Now, I know in many aspects, the universities, the professional associations, they use that education as a way to help build their coffers, and that's a good thing. But ultimately, if we're going to communicate, if we're going to educate back and forth, we have got to take advantage of these new technologies, this new technology, in ways that we've never done before, such as webinar, to go across these boundaries. We've done a number of workshops at NGS outreaching to other communities, and one of the things that I've found when we do that is I'll get people from the various other disciplines that we're now connecting with, what we might call the great GIS community, whatever that happens to be, that'll come back to me and go, I didn't know surveyors did that. They'll come and they'll listen to our workshop. I didn't know it was so important to know what a datum was, or I didn't know it was so important to understand how real-time reference frames work together. I need to go get a surveyor, don't I? Yeah, you do. So I think we have some tools that are available to us. We just have to utilize them in manners that we've not been doing in the past.
Thank you, Dave, for that wrap-up. And before we end, don't all run out. Royce, will you take the microphone over to Christy? There are many of you here who have questions that you're disappointed you couldn't ask. We do have a couple of ways of handling that. Of course, we have quite a bit of conference left over today, as well as the rest of the week for you to ask questions. This is Christy Grail, the editor of POB Magazine, and she's going to tell you about one way to facilitate some of these questions being handled.
Kind of as a follow-up to that last comment, one way that I think we can expand this discussion beyond this immediate audience is the individuals on the panel up here have graciously agreed to continue the discussion on POB Online and rpls.com. So what I'm hoping we can do is anyone who has questions that didn't get a chance to ask them here, if you'd be willing to either jot them down. I have some index cards, and you could either jot them on an index card or just take my business card and email them to me later. And hopefully we can get some discussion going on our website and kind of keep this dialogue going and maybe draw some younger people into the audience and see what happens.